am going to introduce you to a man who is well known. He would have been the representative for this St. Michael Northwest constituency in the past. He is an economist par excellence. And I know that he is going to break down things to the level that both you and I can understand. I introduce to you none other than Dr. Clyde Mascoll, another dame that the Labour Party take because we know his word.
Hi, Miss Lowe. Thank you, man. Why are Barbadians surprised about what is happening? Huh? I'm shocked that Barbadians are surprised. In fact, this had to happen. And I came here tonight really to speak about a liar, but I have decided that it doesn't make sense. Chris Sinclair's a liar, see? I can call him a liar because I know he lied on me. You see, when he said that Owen Arthur, Tyrone Barker, Anthony Wood, and Clyde Mascoll were meeting at the university to send home 10,000 people, I was in England. So I know, but I knew ever since he was. In fact, during the last election, this man denied that he was talking about privatization. Right or wrong? Our party put him up, his voice, talking about privatization. It was denied. But the Prime Minister came and threw him under the bus and said that he's the man in charge of the cabinet. And Barbadians went for it. So the reality is that you get what you voted for. So I don't plan to waste time tonight on him. It's time for us to move ahead. But let me, Kerry, speak to this matter because we have to be careful on this platform not to believe that we can get out of this economic situation through self-employment. That's a myth. All right? It sounds good because you can then say that you're doing training, you're doing these things. That cannot happen. All right? Prior to now, we told the people of Barbados that they needed money in their pockets. Remember? It was said that we were simply trying to win people's votes. But an economy is just spending, isn't it? So, if you stop people from spending, private sector can't grow, jobs can't be created. Prior to now, 16,000 people went home. The government is now contributing to that by sending home people. This did not have to happen, by the way. But this had to be addressed not this year, not last year, not even 2012. This had to be addressed as far back as 2010, 2011, because the evidence was there ever since to show what the government was doing. These fellows are simply incapable of running the country. Simply. You have a cabinet, one fellow says one thing today, the other fellow comes and contradicts that, and then Shakespeare rides in on his horse, having consulted a few books and remembering a few phrases, and he comes and he tries to be a classical scholar. That's his only claim to fame. He has no desire to solve any problem we have. He has no desire even to let Eswick say anything in cabinet. But don't get involved with Eswick either. That's not your concern. All right? That's not your concern. You can hear, move on. Let me explain to you tonight why this foolishness about getting people to create small businesses can't work. All right? The Barbados economy is now smaller than it was in 2006-7. It's smaller. People are spending less. You understand? The government, the private sector. Well, the government is the only entity that is spending more. And for the government to spend more, it has to tax you and me, private sector, borrow money, and all those things the government has done. When we said to put money in the people's pocket, they said it could not be done. And all we were saying is that every cent, Barbadians should have been given tax relief, not tax increases. Every cent. 4 years ago, it was said it could not be done. But the trade unions in this country agreed with a government to stop public sector workers from getting a salary increase for the last 5 years. And now a trade union tells you, the people that have been laid off, we will find work for. This is remarkable. This is remarkable. You see, because 16,000 people have gone home prior to now, in the last 5 years. And we never heard from the trade unions that they were looking for jobs for people. So you mean that not one of those 16,000 could have belonged to the unions? But now we're hearing that you're going to find jobs. So how are you going to find these jobs when people are being laid off? And what method are you going to use? But you can recall again that this country was told, put money in people's pocket. The only way for small businesses, therefore, to thrive, to even begin to prosper in any economy, is if people have money in their pockets. You understand? So, those of you who can afford to bring a gardener to your house to help would do so. Those of you who can afford to bring someone or ask someone in the neighborhood to wash your car, you will do so. Those of you who need a little paint job at home, you will do so. But you can do so only if you have money in your pockets. You with me? So therefore, for an economy to grow, people must be able to spend. But for them to spend, they must have money in their pockets. Now hear me, because we need to discuss this matter. If you're going to set up small businesses, and by the way, I just finished a little study for the private sector on small businesses. How can you ask people in an environment where there's no money circulating simply to go out there and establish a business? To do what, by the way? And in what area, by the way, are you asking people now to go and establish business? So let's think about it. We know that businesses in Bridgetown were waiting to see how the winter season or the Christmas season was going to perform. It has not. There are private sector entities in Bridgetown looking to close down. So, are you going to set up a small business to sell clothing? Are you going to set up a small business to sell shoes? Are you going to set up a small business to sell what? More food? What are you going to set up a small business in this environment to sell? That's all I'm asking. Now hear me. Only in December of last year, That's when the money was borrowed, Mia. In December of last year, the country borrowed $300 million. That money went at the central bank to sit down. And then you heard that all of a sudden, our reserves have now gone back up overnight. No explanation. All right? Now, you know what was said when this party said that you should put money in people's pocket? It was said that the people would spend the money and it would affect our foreign reserves. You may not remember that that's what was said. But do you know that over the last 5 years, that the only thing that stood out in the economy is the fact that this country had a stock of reserves that exceeded any other 5-year period. Not for the right reasons, but it happened. Our reserves actually grew in relation to our use of reserves per week. Now, how it is done, they talk about reserve cover per week. They estimate that we import about $85 million per week, and therefore, whatever reserves we have, we simply divide the amount by that 85 and get this so-called reserve cover. Now, this reserve cover is to provide comfort. Internationally, it is felt that if you have at least 12 weeks in reserves cover, you're okay. At stages along the way over the last 5 years, we had 19 and 20 weeks. And all that we were saying on this side is that since an economy is about spending, put some money in the people's pocket. You were told the reserves would be affected. Well, the most dangerous thing that affects the reserves of a Caribbean economy is when the government spends more than it earns and spends more excessively than it earns. What has happened to Barbados? Since April of this year, our reserves have been declining rapidly. That had nothing last year. That had nothing to do with you spending because the economy continues to contract. So why did the reserves fall? The reserves fell because the government has had to print money at the Central Bank of Barbados. Here what happens. This is the concept. When you print money, it is tantamount to going into a helicopter, releasing money that you have not earned as a citizen. You pick it up, you go to the supermarket, purchase what you want, you do other things, and about 60 cents out of each dollar then affects the reserves. There is therefore no more dangerous thing to affect all foreign reserves than the printing of money. This has happened excessively in Barbados for the last 5 years. But hear me and hear me on this one. You don't have to worry me your time. Hear me on this one. The central bank received the $300 million in December of last year. During the winter season, which runs from 15th of December to the 15th of April, Barbados is expected to accumulate reserves. The way it works, the central bank does not interact with the private citizens or the private sector. When the tourists come to Barbados and they do business, the hoteliers and the others will then go into the commercial banks and park the foreign exchange. When there is excess foreign exchange, the central bank then reaches out to the commercial banks and says, can I purchase some of the excess foreign exchange that you have? Therefore, it is expected that during the winter season, we will be in a position as a country to see an accumulation of our foreign reserves. That is expected because that's when you pay the highest rates for the rooms. That's when people attract tourists here and try to get and extract as much as they can. You would not believe this, my people. But since December of last year, up until the end of January this year, our reserves continue to fall, and they fell by in excess of $100 million during the month of January. Up until February. Yeah. Up to now. Well, the truth is, what's happening is that they're trying to stop us getting access to information. But in this environment, see, the government owes you, the people, owes you the opportunity to know exactly what is happening to our economy. Because it can't get any worse than this. And what do I mean? You cannot go to an electorate a year ago, tell them what you feel or felt at that time they wanted to hear. Avoid all serious discussion, talk about all kind of foolishness, led by the fellow from this constituency, who you all know well, who is incompetent and incapable of running the affairs of this country. And that is where this country has gone, to a point where such an individual is in charge of our finances. I therefore say to you people that the time has come for you to look to the future. Yes, some people believe that we should not try to get a government now because of the circumstances. Well, let me say this to you. If it continues like this, then when you get it, there will hardly be anything to manage. So this notion that you only want it if it is good is rubbish. The beauty of this public life is to be able to make a difference to it. And whatever those challenges are, when we confront them, we must be in a position as a political party to be able to rise to the occasion. Therefore, there's no optimal time. The thing is, when the people need you, you must be able to rise. I can think of no other time in this country when a proper government was needed more. Good night, and may God bless.